All phones on. Well, good evening to you and welcome to this special discussion program on the occasion of Africa-Caricom Day here in Barbados. I'm your host, Tishia Hines, and I'm here with distinguished guests who will delve into the significance of this day and explore the deepening relationship between Africa and the Caribbean community. Joining us in the studio is the Honorable Carrie Simmons, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Good to have you with us. Of course, he's just back from a trip to Kenya, and he's been pretty instrumental in fostering closer ties between Barbados and African nations. We are also honored to have David Commichong, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, who's been a vocal advocate for strengthening the bonds between the Caribbean and Africa for as long as I can remember. And lastly, we also have esteemed Daniel Woma, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank. Welcome, gentlemen. Good to have you all with us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Tisha.
All right. I'd love to start with you, Ambassador, and talk about what happened this morning. There was an official flag-raising ceremony. I know that this was designated in 2021, so it's only the second anniversary or the second celebration. So there's a way to go to get the rest of the region on board with this celebratory day or this day of celebration. So let's talk about what happened this morning as we look toward the future.
Well, we celebrated the day this morning with a flag-raising ceremony at government headquarters. So we raised the flags of the African Union, CARICOM, and Barbados. We had addresses by Acting Prime Minister William Dugid. Representing CARICOM, we had Mr. Leo Titus Preville, who is the director of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy. So he spoke on behalf of CARICOM. And because we don't have a representative, an official representative of the African Union in Barbados, but we were able to get a very distinguished African, Professor David Akombo, who is Dean of the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts at CAFIL, and he spoke on behalf of the African continent. So it was a beautiful ceremony, very powerful. We had powerful artistic presentations by Betty Griffith Payne, Marissa Lindsay, Rhythm Tribe, the UE CAFIL Dance Ensemble, and we also played the national anthems of African Union, Barbados and CARICOM. So we were doing what Prime Minister Motley had actually sent out a call to her fellow CARICOM heads of government, urging everyone to celebrate Africa-CARICOM Day today, and urging everyone to issue official statements and perhaps to consider having flag-raising ceremonies. So this was our contribution to Barbados's, to CARICOM, celebration of Africa-CARICOM Day.
Excellent. Now, Minister, we know that you were on flight, you were on your way back, and of course we were hoping you would make it in time to make this discussion tonight. You indeed were on your way back from Kenya. That in and of itself is testament of how much we're working toward being more one in terms of trade and commerce and everything else.
Yeah, it is at policy level, government has taken a very clear decision that we want to build that bridge between, in the case of Barbados and Africa, removing the middleman, the middle leg, and the memories of the middle passage. It is really about not just the consciousness and the connection back to Africa alone, but also about economic development. We feel that there is a lot of synergy between ourselves in a number of areas and sectors, which we really have to develop. The trip that I took to Kenya was on the matter of climate financing. The African Union's leaders have convened a summit on the question of climate change and how we finance the adaptation. The big issue there, of course, is for significance to us, is that Barbados has been an intellectual thought leader on this matter, and you would have heard of the Bridgetown Initiative, which has been spearheaded by our Prime Minister. Much of that which is now being discussed in Africa is reflective of that which we had been proposing to the country for the world for the last 2 years or so. Substantively, that particular issue turns on really the fact that for us in the developing world of the South, we spend 4 times, 5 times as much on financing alone to finance our adaptation efforts. It might be in the case of Barbados, you see what we did on our south coast, where we have a boardwalk that is really about protecting the coast. We've done a similar thing in my constituency in St. James, protection of the coastline. We obviously have to finance the aquifers and the repairs to our water systems. Miles and miles of mains have to be replaced. These things come at great cost. And a similar project in the north of the world will be at 4% money for a loan, whereas in the south, in some cases, as much as 16% on a loan. So we're trying to start a global conversation and are making great strides in getting international lending institutions to come to the table to recognize that the South cannot make the adaptation necessary for us to be able to finance our way in climate change unless we are able to borrow money at the same rate. But it goes beyond that. There's the question of our building synergies in tourism, for example. We obviously have practiced tourism looking to the North Atlantic. Africa is just across the world. We have made now substantial strides with regard to, for example, Rwanda Air coming to Barbados. Right now they are discussing package tours, and we are shaping the package tours. We are doing this with the assistance of the Africa-Caricom Bank, which has very recently opened an office here in Barbados, its Caribbean office. And the progress that we're making has now come to the point where we can almost identify what would be necessary for us in terms of having to subsidize to some extent the cost of travel between Barbados and Africa. And obviously for a brand new market, you have now to do the marketing packages, et cetera, et cetera. But most importantly, it has to be a commercially feasible exercise, which governments on both sides will have to be involved in. But it goes on. The conversations we're having in Africa are fundamental on issues like reparations. Again, that is about economic development. For many people, for a long time, they saw the reparation discussion as a pipe dream and that black people just asking for money. Not true. We are now able to have a relationship between ourselves and Africa where we are speaking as one voice with a view towards ensuring that the issue of reparations for the enslavement of African persons is something that we can speak to collectively and in a way that recognizes the importance of development. Here in the Caribbean, we're talking about education opportunities being enhanced, healthcare being enhanced, and it goes on. In the area of defense, Africa is working with us right now on conversations we're having about what we may need as a region to do with respect to Haiti. That Haiti is being ignored at the time when there are thousands of reports of terrible violence, rapes in the streets, murders, etc., etc., and the galvanizing of a multinational body of opinion on the need to work with Haitians on a solution to what is happening in Haiti is now something that the African continent is siding with CARICOM in and engaging in discussions, especially Rwanda and Kenya in this regard. So there are a number of areas where we are having very useful dialogue. And obviously, last but not least, I would want to say a word or two about trade, because substantively, we are coming a long way. We now have companies in Barbados that are indicating an interest in being able to go into Africa, different parts of Africa, with products that they have. We now have to facilitate that. When I became trade minister, I recognized that Africa-Barbados relationships, I could tell you, for example, Kenya, the best we've ever done in any given year was $3,000 US in trade. And that is a fact. But we have to realize that if we're going to be able to sell products and make foreign exchange earning a major deal for Barbados, we have to find our way into new marketplaces which are receptive to the idea of buying, and I'll give you an example, Barbados rum, Barbados cola tonic. You know, there are products there which naturally can resonate in these countries, but we have not been doing it. And now is the opportunity for us to do so. We do this with the support of some of the statutory entities in Barbados, like Invest Barbados and Export Barbados and so on. But the important thing is to penetrate these new markets with a view to earning foreign exchange and building that bridge, as I said, not only by way of tourism, but by way of commercial trade as well.
All right. You know, quite a mouthful, but needed to be said, and I'm happy that you talked about Export Barbados and Invest Barbados, because throughout the course of the program we're also going to be featuring a series of reports from some of the Barbadian representatives and missions and so on as well from across the African continent, of course highlighting the various initiatives and collaborations, as you alluded to, Mr. Minister, that have emerged from this growing relationship. Now to bring you into the discussion, Dr. Boama, talk to us about how it feels for you to be able to celebrate an Africa-Caricom Day on a day like this. I know that you served as Deputy Governor of the Central Bank here in Barbados at a time where, you know, Barbadians were still, as the Minister said, you know, thinking, oh, we didn't have this level of trade discussion. Certainly representatives on the continent as well, and to be able to be a part of a day like this, it must be one that you feel quite proud about.
Yes, indeed. As an African who's lived here for so long, I did welcome the celebration. Today's celebration was really remarkable. David did a good job coordinating the whole thing. You know, and again, as an African, I welcome the linkages, the rapprochement that is really taking place between Africa and the Caribbean. There was a time when, during independence, there were a number of Africans, Caribbean, who go to Africa, who went to Africa to help us with teaching in the secondary schools. You know, and I could mention my own daughter's father-in-law, Mr. Manhope, spent about 3 years in Ghana. So was his sister. And the first governor of the Central Bank of Barbados, Dr. Courtney Blackman, Sir Blackman, he also spent about 3 years in one of our secondary schools. You know, now we have a system where the Africans are coming back to the Caribbean. So although there was no link, individually there have been some links. You know, I have been here for close to about 40 years.
Wow.
And so people ahead of me, we talk about, most of them worked at the University of West Indies there. We can mention names like Dr. Albert Fiajo, who was in the Faculty of Law. He taught a lot of the new lawyers right now.
Kwesi Ametwi.
Kwesi Ametwi, orthopedic surgeon. Ahead of them was really one James Saki, you know, who really was here between 78 and 82.
Professor Crabb, my
and then,
father-in-law.
of course, your father-in-law, Professor Crabb.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And so those in our own way are making our little contribution towards the linkage between Africa and the Caribbean.
And of course, there have been stories throughout the years that have not been told from platforms that, they should have been told from. So we're now learning about Liberia all over again and all of these wonderful stories. So let's bring some of the others who are joining us this evening in on this evening's discussion. We're going to reach out to Barbados Chargé d'Affaires at the High Commission of Barbados to Ghana and welcome Juliet Bab Riley to join us through a message that she has for us from the continent.
You've been gone, it's an empty home. Come on back where you really belong. You are always welcome home, welcome.
I'm pleased to join you today in commemorating Africa-Caricom Day from the beautifully refurbished Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park in Accra, Ghana. The convening of the first Africa-Caricom Summit in September 2021 coincides with the inaugural opening of Barbados' resident diplomatic mission in Ghana. The establishment of the High Commission in Accra, Ghana, followed the successful visit to Barbados of His Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo, followed by the reciprocal visit of the Honorable Mia Amour Motley to Ghana in November 2019. This decision to establish two resident diplomatic missions on the continent, one in Nairobi, Kenya, and the other here in Accra, Ghana, reflect our strong desire to forge deeper relations not only with Ghana, but with Africa as a whole. The Barbados High Commission is presently comprised of 3 home-based and 2 locally recruited staff members. Together, we have been able to facilitate the recruitment and arrival in Barbados of the second cohort of Ghanaian nurses to work in our healthcare system. In addition, we have been able to facilitate the conclusion of memoranda of understanding in the area of tourism and culture, as well as on air services. It is hoped that in the near future, we will be able to finalize formal arrangements with regard to cooperation in investment and sports. To date, we have concluded memoranda of understanding on air services and cooperation in the areas of tourism and culture. Moreover, memoranda of understanding have been concluded between Ghana Investment Promotion Center and Invest Barbados, and between Ghana Export Promotion Agency and Export Barbados. And you will no doubt hear a little more about this from my colleagues. The High Commission, in association with the government and people of Ghana, had the pleasure of welcoming Prime Minister Motley to Ghana in March 22 as the special guest honor of President Akufo-Addo at the 65th anniversary independence celebration of Ghana. More recently, we were able to welcome the Prime Minister to Ghana to participate in the 30th annual general meeting of Africa-Caricom Bank. Principal diplomatic presence in West Africa, we are looking forward to building out our relationship in the coming years and seeing more companies like Africa-Caricom Bank and Seed Money establish a presence in Barbados. Finally, I would want to mention that in November last year, we were able to partner with the Embassy of Suriname in hosting a joint diplomatic reception to commemorate our respective Independence Day. In the coming year, we are looking forward to continue this collaboration with the Embassy of Suriname and the Honorary Consulates of Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago, respectively. Let me conclude very, very quickly by one, commending the efforts of all those who have been involved in rebuilding the Atlantic Bridge between Barbados and Africa, and between the peoples of the Caribbean and the peoples of the African continent. And two, recalling the truly, truly inspiring words of Dr. Nkrumah. I am not Africa because I was born in Africa, but because Africa was born in me. Thank you.
To where you really belong.
And what beautiful words to end that report. There's so much happening in Ghana, so thanks so much to the Charge d'Affaires for that. Minister.
I think that the Charge d'Affaires in Ghana made a very important observation, two important observations. The first is the relationship that we have is an ongoing working relationship with the Africa-Caricom Bank. And secondly, the effort we're making not only as Barbados, but also with CARICOM. The Africa-Caricom Bank has not only set up an office here, but it has designated CARICOM as being the sixth dimension of Africa as far as its reach and interest is concerned. It has committed a tremendous amount of resources to this region, $1.5 billion United States dollars in assistance towards development. And if all of the members of CARICOM sign on to the bank, then that is automatically doubled and becomes $3 billion United States dollars. There is no better partnership in town at the moment. And I think that a lot of the things that the Charge Ghana has been able to point to, and a lot of the work that we are interested in, especially in the areas like I mentioned, climate adaptation and in tourism development and so on, we will only be able to finance this really if we have a partner of the dimension and ability of the Africa-Caricom.
All right, and we're going to have a representative from the bank coming on a little bit later in the program. But now we'd like to welcome the Commercial and Cultural Attaché, Phil Phillips, to come on into the program. And there Phil is, live joining us. So good evening and welcome. Good to have you with us, Phil.
It's a pleasure.
And we open the floor to you as you bring greetings from the continent.
Yes, definitely, Tisha. Thank you, and good evening to all. I bring greetings from 4,076 miles to your east in Accra, Ghana. Good evening to global Africans, those on the continent and in the diaspora. Good evening to all Barbadians, CARICOM citizens, and the global audience. The reporting period of Barbados' work in Ghana coincides with the historic CARICOM AU summit that gave birth to today's significance as Africa-Caricom Day. The 2021 summit, the same year and the same month that we arrived in Ghana to start the work on reclaiming our Atlantic destiny. While acknowledging the importance of forging a type of relationship that foregrounds our shared heritage, genealogy, culture, and linked histories of oppression, a typical ancestral diplomacy, if you will, and while we are always cognizant of the critical strides being made in terms of high-level agreements and institutional arrangements, today's celebrations and the Africa-Caricom Bank are excellent examples of this significance. It is crucial and urgent in this increasing hostile global climate and climate crisis context that success be measured by the extent of tangible day-to-day positive cultural developments and commercial benefits to ordinary Barbadians. This is especially critical for small to large entrepreneurs and investors across all sectors. To this end, we have been relentless in facilitating opportunities. The surge of possibilities is tremendous, but the limited time here does not allow us to really delve into many of the initiatives. So we'll just share a few. In relation to trade, Minister mentioned earlier our rum, or Clayton's Cola Tonic. We are about to commence a relationship soon with Bisco, with biscuits, because we've seen a lot of interest on the ground already with the samples that we had from Bisco. And only today, yesterday, we facilitated discussions with Solar Dynamics as well. And they have, of course, many new products that they are bringing to the market, and we are looking at developing partnerships with a local organization. In the fintech space, we've been extremely active with Global Integrated Fintech Solution GIFts and ZPay. Global Integrated Fintech Solutions, they have also spread their wings, not just within Ghana, but within Cote d'Ivoire, within also, I think, Sierra Leone, yeah. So that's something we can discuss more in as we go into discussion. Life sciences has become such a pivotal platform now for the economic growth of Barbados. And Export Barbados and the Center for Plant Medicine Research, out of Mamprong, Ghana, they have developed so many initiatives, and we can delve down into those initiatives as if time permits. In relation to business development, currently on the ground in Barbados, we have the world's largest okra farmer who has been engaging through the Ministry of Agriculture. That company has been engaging a number of farmers. And for the first time, we know that many farmers have challenges, not so much with the production of their produce, but in terms of market access. And Moonlight Group, as the world's largest okra farmer, they will be able to facilitate export markets, and we are anticipating something in the short term of about $50 million through this initiative. And over the next year to 2 years, we expect to have a boost in our agricultural exports to the tune of almost $200 million. We have also developed a great relationship with the Ghana Union of Traders, which is a 78 sectorial organization. And this is the organization that facilitated the relationship, for instance, with Mexico in the distribution of all rum. This is a unique scenario where for the first time, we are working with a very, very powerful organization that allows us to interact across all sectors. So we anticipate any area that Barbados wants to offer as a product. Through GUTA, we will have somewhat of a pre-qualified distributor. And GUTA also made the recommendation, of course, for Wabisco. As alluded, we have also developed an MOU with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Ghana Export Promotion Authority as well. And we are on standby. We have been certainly building relationships with both the Ghana Club and the East Legon Executive Fitness Club. Now, we have to go into details about those organizations and why they are so important. So we have seen those MOUs develop, as I mentioned, and we are looking forward to, in the next few weeks, of facilitating the conclusion of an MOU even in the area of sports through the National Sports Council and the Ghana Sports Authority. So that's going to be quite an interesting one because of 2024 being the year that Ghana will host the African Games.
All right, we certainly have to delve into these things a whole lot more, Phil. We won't be able to get into them tonight, though, but we can tell there's certainly a lot happening. A far cry from the 3,000 US that the minister mentioned at the top of the show, is what you're doing now and what you're hoping to, where we're hoping to get as well.
Ancient history. He hasn't even talked about the pharmaceutical industry that we're trying to develop yet.
Wow, so definitely some wonderful strides. Continue making your mark there. We're going to have to move on quickly if we're to get
That's all right.
everyone in. So we're going to ask you to stand down for just a bit as we go on over to Barbados Honorary Council in Rwanda now. Through Barbados and Barbados and Rwanda established diplomatic ties in July of 2015, developments have moved at a rapid pace since initial high-level contact in 2022. And Ambassador Komishong, I'm going to give you the pleasure of introducing Emery Rubagenga, who has been doing a lot of work in that area.
Yes, well, I think he was just recently in Barbados with a very large team from Rwanda. And Mr. Rubagenga is a businessman in his own right, a very dynamic business leader in Rwanda. And, I think we should simply let him speak for himself. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we look forward to hearing what views he brings to us all the way from Rwanda.
Thank you very much, David. It's a great pleasure to be on this panel to talk about the relationship between the Caribbean region and Africa. It is the time to actually come back and reconnect, because we are, in fact, one people. The first time that I visited Barbados 10 years ago, I was mesmerized by how the people in Barbados were looking exactly the same that people back home. I could literally feel that I'm seeing a sister or a cousin or an uncle, and beside this relationship, historical relationship, there is also in today's world an opportunity to reconnect business-wise. We had a very difficult past, and we all know that, but we have a bright future. And we have amazing leaders, Prime Minister Motley, President Kagame, amazing leaders that are showing the path for Africa and Caribbean region to connect. I'm just referring to the visit of President Kagame in Barbados in April 2022, where during its state visit, he took time to connect and meet the people and play road tennis. And guess what? Today we have a road tennis display in the country, and these are practical things. They might seem little, but the youth is connecting and enjoying. And talking about the visit of Prime Minister Motley in Rwanda and inaugurating this very office I'm sitting in, the Consulate of Barbados, it was an historical visit, a champion of climate change initiatives recognized globally, visiting Rwanda and sharing her experience. This is in fact a good timing for both. We might seem that these are two very far away destinations. They are getting closer, just like Minister Simon was saying about Rwanda. Rwanda envisioning to create, direct flights between Africa and the Caribbean. These are business initiatives that are going to enable more relationships. We need more connections. We need to leverage opportunities. This is the time. Africa is 1.5 billion people, the youngest continent on the globe. The average age is 19, whilst the average age in other parts of the world, let's, for example, take Germany is 49.5. So Africa has so much to offer, and Barbados, for instance, is an amazing international financial center that so many African countries can learn from. There are so many South-South cooperation opportunity here that we need to just plug and connect. This is the time to do some good economic diplomacy to make sure that we leverage the wonderful leadership that we have and do business. I can't wait to see a delegation of business leaders coming from
Tisha, could I ask Emery
in
if you can
November.
hear us?
So thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to hosting you in Kigali, and many of business leaders are attending the tourism conference in November. So courtesy we brought during the in Barbados.
All right, well,
So it's do business.
all right, thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us. And he made an interesting point there. Well, interesting points all the way through, but at the end, he made reference to us moving forward in the financial services sector and the importance of being able to move forward in that particular area. What does it mean to you, Doctor, to be able to say that we are moving forward in the way that we are, indeed, in financial services, which is, you know, where you really spent a lot of your time here in Barbados?
Yeah, basically, we are happy about it because when you are an outsider, you want to send money. If you go through the traditional commercial banking system, sometimes it takes too long. But we have new companies coming up through this fintech. You talk about Z Money, Z Pay, you know, mobile money, where we can have your money transferred in a matter of seconds, more or less.
Absolutely.
So it is something that we all look forward to.
Okay.
Tisha, I'm sorry we couldn't engage more with Emery because it would have been interesting to have him to speak a little bit about the effort that is being made between Rwanda and Barbados and Guyana to develop a pharmaceutical industry.
Well, we're going to certainly try to double back
Yes.
and get Emery back in here, but I think it's as good a time as any for us to invite Oki Ijaherika to join us, who is the representative of the Africa-Caricom Bank right here in Barbados that's just been established in the last few weeks. So good evening and welcome to the program. Good to have you with us. And it certainly looks good on you to be here in the Caribbean region. So welcome, and the floor is yours in terms of the bank's entry into this side of the world.
Okay, thank you very much, and a very good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a very important day for us. It's a day to be proud of as an African, a day to feel welcome and at home. So for me, it is very useful that this is happening at this moment when everybody seems to be divided and everybody seems to be pursuing their own individual interest. So it makes sense that brothers find it very useful to team up together to be able to do things in unison and achieve a lot more as a result of that. For me, being in Barbados also feels like being at home. Apart from the uniformity and the kind of climatic conditions that are similar, I also see myself as if I'm walking on a typical street back home in Nigeria. So which makes it a lot easier. And I've also had comments about people telling me that, oh, I look like somebody they've worked with in one place or the other, which makes it a lot more exciting. And I'm looking forward to, with time, getting to meet some of my lookalikes as things begin to unfold. So for me, I think this useful day is a day that is worth commemorating. The time that, there's nothing that's more exciting to see a people so socially and culturally united, but unfortunately divided due to the centuries of being separated from each other through slavery, make a voluntary decision to come back together as a people and begin to take their destinies into their own hands. So I wish to congratulate the Prime Minister, Her Excellency Mia Amor Motley, for the groundbreaking work she's doing, and the entire people of Barbados, the CARICOM Union and African Union, for making the effort to put into being some of the concepts and ideas that were propounded by the leaders of the past. I do know that in the past, we had the great sons of Africa and the Caribbean, like the great Marcus Garvey and great Bob Marley, talk about days of African Caribbean liberation. So it's exciting that this is happening at my own time, and to be able to play a role in seeing that come to realization. So for Africa, for Afreximbank, we take special interest in making sure that this has worked. The first challenge got thrown to us when the COVID struck. Of course, we saw how protectionism, dominated the politics of vaccine allocation, and how the people of Africa and the Caribbean came together, and through the intervention of Afreximbank, were able to create a program that facilitated vaccine acquisition, which was a huge departure from what was the norm at the time, when people actually thought that, it's usually the case of cap in hand, begging the West and the rest of the people for aids, for vaccine acquisition. So it's very useful that at the time when we needed it most, we came together and as a united front, were able to confront the challenges that COVID posed, and were able to also get the vaccines that were required. Now, Afreximbank making the groundbreaking decision to also come to the Caribbean is also a very useful history that requires us taking note of. The events of 4th of August, when the branch was established, requires that. We brace up for greater things to come, because without financing and without institutions of this dimension coming in to play a great role, it might be difficult to see some of the initiatives that are on ground take flesh or come to realization. We do know that African Union has designated the diaspora and the Caribbean as the 6th region, and it's something that requires urgent attention, that some of the thoughts and the talks, get into work. And this is what Afreximbank sets out to do with the setting up of the branch in the Caribbean, in the CARICOM region, which is going to cover the Caribbean as well. So like the Honorable Minister mentioned, we do have intention to invest up to about 1.5 billion in financing at the moment, and this is likely to grow up to 3 billion by the time we have all the members, join the Afreximbank as members. And this is helpful because we can't talk about some of the lofty initiatives we have set out for ourselves coming to realization if there are no financing to activate it. We see priorities in a lot of areas. Of course, the talk about renewable energy is a very useful one. At a time when the world is transitioning, it makes sense that those in the African and Caribbean region also follow suit and have adequate investments that can facilitate renewable energy transition in the right way. One of the other issues we see is that of connectivity and transportation. I'm happy that the mention of Rwanda Air is there, but it's important that we create that sea and air connectivity that will make sure that somebody can fly all the way from Kigali, from Lagos, from Dakar, or from Accra, straight to Bridgetown, without having to transition through without having to transit through London or Miami, as the case is at the moment. So that's a case of us, Africans and Caribbeans, taking our own destiny in our own hands, being able to also design how we want the outcomes to flow. So so most of the investment that we've set out definitely will have to go into facilitating projects that can ensure that this air connectivity challenge is addressed significantly, so that when people can move freely between these regions, then we can talk about how we're going to be able to boost the trade relationship between these two areas, which is abysmally low, at less than 5% currently. We do have need for ourselves, and if we build a strong common market, we will be able to make ourselves a strong force to reckon with globally. In terms of our Afrexim Bank intervention, apart from financing, we also have solutions that can facilitate intra-regional payments. The Pan-Africa Payment and Settlement System comes in handy because it's going to facilitate payment in local currency between countries in the Caribbean and, of course, within the African space. We want to also invest so much into some kind of capacity building, which we think is important to ensure that cultural exchange is achieved between universities in the Caribbean and, of course, in Africa. So we want to see that happen. We want to be able to have people freely go to African continent to be able to take one course or the other, and we can facilitate that and make sure that this is also something that works. In terms of tourism, I think it's also another area that's priority to us. We want to make sure.
Before we even start talking about tourism, but we were in studio just saying amongst ourselves, there's so much happening. It's so difficult to kind of summarize everyone. We wanted to get a snapshot of what's happening, and maybe we needed to define the snapshot a little further, but certainly there's a lot that you have planned for here in the region. We absolutely have to take a break right now from the program. We're going to come back with this special Africa-Caricom Day special TV event after this break. Stay with us.
Are you a youth group, 4-H club, school, Cub Scout or Brownie Pack, or any organization or club with children ages 4 to 11 years? If yes is the answer, then we at Fun School, we're looking for you. Let's have fun singing, dancing, listening to amazing stories, doing craft, and so much more. I'm such a kid at heart. But to be part of this fun and exciting new season of Fun School, just simply send an email to Alicia Alves Grant at aagrant@cbc.bb for further details. Fun School is back, and we're looking for you. For the past 19 years, QFM has been sharing with you, learning from you, and together building a community for all mature audiences. That's why we say Q is good for you. To our Q family, we say thank you for staying connected to Q 100.7 FM. QFM is a station of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. CBC, celebrating 60, connecting Barbadian communities.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Morning Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morningbarbados@cbc.bb. And together we will travel the world.
enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
98.1 to 1 is more than a station. We don't just play music, we keep you company, cheer you up, keep you informed and entertained. We are a vibe. What do you mean?
Every day we bring the party to you.
We are your #1 party station.
We love playing music for our listeners. And we are committed to working with our clients and advertisers to
Welcome back to the discussion on this Africa-Caricom Day as we continue to talk about how timely it is that as Africa-Caricom Day serves to remind us of the solidarity and, of course, the unity that exists between the two regions. It's also an opportunity to celebrate our shared heritage, our culture, our history, while also recognizing the immense potential for future collaboration and growth. Still in studio with us, Ambassador David Comishong, the Honorable Kerry Simmons, and Dr. Daniel Boama sitting in with us. And then we have many others online. We have to say a special thank you to you, Ambassador, for pulling everyone together. We certainly acknowledge that this is a discussion that has to carry on far beyond this day and far more in depth. You know, there's so many things swirling in our heads that we want to hear more about. So let's bring in someone who's on the ground right here in Barbados and welcome the CEO of Invest Barbados. We've seen you a lot in the news recently and talking about many of these projects. Kay Greenwich is joining us. Welcome. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Doing well. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Okay.
You know, as I sit here and I listen to all of the reports from everyone who's gone so far, and even from a Minister Simmons who's just come back from Kenya, I begin to feel even a wealth of excitement all over again building up. As you know, Invest Barbados would have been involved in a number of these projects, a number of these missions, and really being the facilitator and the glue that pulls it all together. You know, we continue and we will continue to look towards the African market. There's so much diversity in that market, and it allows us to be able to diversify our Barbadian economy as well. You would have heard the last big thing we would have done is associated with the opening of the Africa-Caricom office here in Barbados. And we look forward to the opportunities that that office will bring for Barbados and for CARICOM. I know there's been several engagements already with business persons regarding projects, looking at how persons can partner to finance projects to build the development of this country and also throughout the CARICOM countries. The prospects are amazing, and we look forward to working, like places like Rwanda, as honorary council mentioned, in areas such as financial services, legal and finance, exchange programs where we have the expertise and they have the expertise, and let's exchange so that we can build both areas to a level of efficiency in things like hospitality and tourism, education, a collaboration between the University of the West Indies and Carnegie Mellon out of Rwanda, and also the exchange of wellness and spa services. We would have taken in our last mission in November a young gentleman to Rwanda, and now he's training persons in Rwanda and Kenya in spa services and in standard setting in these services. We have so much to offer, and Africa has so much to offer. everyone has given their reports and have said a lot of the things that we have been involved in. The one thing I want to say to you and perhaps leave you with is, when we go out there on our explorations and when we go out there on our missions to engage the countries of Africa and so on, please, we implore the private sector of Barbados to join us. There's so many opportunities that you do not realize until you get out there and are able to engage and talk to persons on the continent and realize that there's so much wonderful partnerships and relationships that you can forge. So again, we encourage you to join us. We look forward to seeing you at the next big thing is the Inter-African Trade Fair, which will actually be happening in November. You can see all the information around that on our website. Over 30,000 business people, 10,000 from the diaspora in Africa. And you heard Oki and everybody mention about CARICOM being that 6th area. All of that is going to be happening there. But more importantly, we give you the platform for you to be able to forge those business linkages that is necessary to be able to have those businesses attract foreign direct investment into Barbados, into the CARICOM, and also outward into Africa.
All right, excellent. Well said. I don't think we can add much. The minister seems as though he would love to add something, though.
It's just we skirted a very important development, which is the question of the pharmaceutical effort. And the representative of the Africa-Caricom Bank, their chief operation officer, just mentioned it as well. We are doing an amazing thing in the aftermath of COVID. Because of the difficulty in sourcing vaccines, Africa and CARICOM came together and did a joint procurement process. That is really how we became relevant, because quite frankly in the CARICOM we were just too small to matter and we were being ignored. So our people's lives really could have just disappeared. It didn't matter. We learned a lot from that, and we are now in partnership with Rwanda. Rwanda is doing manufacturing of their own pharmaceuticals now. And between Guyana and Barbados, and with the backing financially of the European Union and their bank, we are now in a position where we will be able very shortly to start to roll out pharmaceutical manufacturing for the first time in this region in partnership with Africa. It means that areas of particular interest to our people, and you know that we are predisposed to a number of different things, and cancers as well are included in that. And to be able to find the right type of research and the right type of pharmaceutical interventions to assist our people in their quality of life is vital. And again, this is a wonderful, I think, historical and groundbreaking development. But again, thanks to Rwanda and the partnership that we've been able to build.
Tisha, it's important for viewers to be aware that, okay, this Africa-Caricom Day came out of that summit, that Africa-Caricom Heads of Government Summit in 2021. And virtually all of the things that we are talking about at that summit, for example, about pharmaceuticals and developing our own vaccines, that was agreed upon at the summit on the 7th of September 2021. The Africa-Caricom Bank, the public-private partnership mobilizing development finance, that was agreed upon at that summit. So the summit of 2021 was really historic. It was a vindication of Pan-Africanism, and it was setting out for us a future agenda of partnership and development between CARICOM and Africa. And it is important that we pay attention to the communique of that summit, because that communique outlines the development plan going forward. And everything we have heard here tonight is in keeping with that development plan. I just want to make that point.
That's
Absolutely.
the foundation of the effort that we are making.
All right, let's go ahead and bring Mark Hill in, who is CEO of Export Barbados, for Mark to come in and share with us how we are faring in the other direction. Welcome.
Hi, thanks.
And I'm really excited to be here to be part of this to give a report on where we are. We've been doing significant work with all of the teams on the ground in Africa. So both with Phil, with Ambassador in Kenya, and also with the team in Rwanda as well. So a lot of activities happening to move exports in that direction. So we've sent off, first and foremost, a number of produce by ship to Ghana, and those products have been performing extremely well in the market. Particularly the Cotsboro brand has been doing very well in that market. Also, the Clayton Cola Tonic has been performing very well in that market. So we actually are going to restock because we're stocking out at this point in the Ghana market. So from there in Ghana, now that we've piloted those products, we're going to be moving them into Rwanda and into Kenya as well. So we're exploring the bottom of the plane while everybody is discussing the top of the plane. What is going to make the business case also viable is the bottom of the plane and the products that we'll be moving and the goods that we'll be moving at the bottom. So that is happening in terms of moving our traditional exports. But what we're also doing as ministers, just highlighting, is moving into the life sciences with the pharmaceuticals. So we have the two activities happening, as Minister Simmons spoke to, regarding the pharmaceuticals. So we're making a lot of headway on the ground here locally to build out that framework. So we have a team on the ground every day coming to work to make this happen, collaborating with the team of Rwanda, collaborating with the Food and Drug Association, and we're working also with the Germans who are helping that to unfold as well around the vaccine equity scenario in conjunction with Guyana. So significant investment is happening in that particular space. But what's also happening with Ghana is the Center for Plant Medicine. We have sponsored the Center for Plant Medicine. So Barbados has an investment in that space, and we have about 1,500 plants, and from there we brought in a few samples for prostate health treatment. So we'll be having that pilot running shortly for persons who need nutraceuticals in the prostate care space, and that is an arrangement that we're having with them.
Well, so there definitely is a lot happening. There we go back again to pharmaceuticals. But I know there's a burning question that you have, Ambassador.
No, Mark, could you just, we're getting all of these wonderful trade and investment opportunities. For example, the Afri-Exim Bank has made a credit facility of 1.5 billion US dollars available to our businessmen to do trade and investment between the Caribbean and Africa. But what I wanted to ask you is, are we taking concrete steps to make sure that our small and medium-sized businesses, our black businessmen and women, who tend to be the small and medium-sized businesses of Barbados, that they are in on this action, that they are being prepared to benefit from these trade and investment opportunities?
Yes, absolutely. So, for example, we have been working with the African-Exim Bank to set up our Barbados Exim Bank. So we're making significant headway with that. Just a few regulatory scenarios need to be worked through. But we've been collaborating in terms of funding from the African Exim Bank into our local Exim Bank, which will give access to persons who need to do maybe between 10,000 US to 50,000 US in small exports, and that's a space where we find what we call tier 5 and tier 4 exporters. That's where they have that need. And so the bank providing that coverage for our Exim Bank allows small business persons to have the export credit that they need. And the bank, Prime Minister Motley would have spoken to it in their budget, is scheduled to be set up by the end of the financial year. So we're working vigorously on that so that we can boost our exports by additional 10, 20%. The other thing that we're doing as well is on the supply chain side. So that if you need produce from China, from Africa, that allows us to bring in supply. So for example, we just put in an order of shea butter and various oils from Ghana as well, so that those who are making soaps, creams can get the low cost inputs directly from Africa rather than sourcing them from Africa through China. So we're also doing the South-South restructuring in our supply chain through our relationship with African Exim Bank, and it will significantly benefit the small businesses in our space.
Yes.
There's one point I want to make here, because the missing piece in this puzzle is the maritime transport. And you will recognize that every time we've talked about making the connection, we've talked about it by air, because at this particular juncture, it is probably the easiest way of doing it. But we are still looking at the question of maritime connectivity. Once we can find the right fit so that all these products, small business person, medium size, sourcing from Africa to get inputs here, but using the sea, it is cheaper and you can carry far more by way of ship. So it's far more effective as a connection and a developmental tool. And that is really the missing piece that we have to fix.
All right, absolutely. So we're going to try to bring two people in at this point in time together as we try to reach out and make it the more the merrier. So we have Mariam Hines, who is joining us. I believe she's here in Barbados.
No, she's in, I think she's in North America. She works in Barbados. She's the director of our Barbados National Drug Service.
But she's away at this time.
Yes.
And also Professor Okombo. So both of you, good to have both of you with us on the program. We're going to go ahead and start with you, Mariam. Wonderful to have you here. And of course, on this day where we speak more about solidarity and unity and look at how we can foster stronger ties, this is a day that you most certainly must be proud of.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Ambassador, His Excellency David Commission, for asking me to be part of this program. And I'm really delighted and honored and humbled to be part of the African Union and CARICOM Day, September 7th. I remembered it was just about a year ago that many of us virtually were participating in the first meeting. At that time, I was not even aware that we were going to be so engaged to the extent that we are now, especially in the area of pharmaceuticals. I don't think I have much more to say because so many people have spoken about it already. But just to say that as a result of the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, Mia Motley, where she was looking to lift Barbados to that level where it has a stringent regulatory authority in place, drug regulatory authority that is, that we could be able to manufacture vaccines, that we could be able to manufacture biological products from either monoclonal antibodies or mRNA technology that was used to assist us to have vaccines so quickly when we suffered the pandemic. And in terms of bringing equity and how we would have suffered were it not for the swift actions that she would have taken to make sure that we were able to get supplies all over. So to me, it is very pleasing for me to see me being of African descent, married, living in Barbados, raising Barbadian children, and now to see that connection with Africa, and then to see the connection in the pharmaceutical sector also, it's a double delight for me. And I'm really, really very happy with all that is happening. And I want to say that Mark would have mentioned some, and I guess Kay would not have been able to mention so much because so much have been said on it already. I'm very happy to have both Phil Phillips and Emery, because when we paid a visit to Ghana to look at what they were doing there and how we could benefit and how they regulate things there, and then we also went to Rwanda to see how they were doing things. Barbados, we were actually invited when the World Health Organization was assessing Rwanda to take it to maturity level 3 in drug regulation. And we were so honored to witness firsthand what they were doing and what we too would have to do. So to me, it is such a great delight to see all the things that are happening now. And I can say that there's some drugs right now that we're having shortages of in Barbados. And I know that it is there in Ghana that can help sort some of the programs. And
excellent.
Mark Hill would have not been able to mention it, but we're working actually on trying to see if we can capitalize on that and bring some of those products here.
Absolutely.
That we would be able to use them in Barbados. And to give way to the others, because most have been said already about the
absolutely. We look forward to hearing a whole lot more about it. But to defer now to you, Professor Okombo, I know for the flag raising ceremony this morning, some of your dancers were on show for that, and that must have been a proud moment for you as well. So succinctly, quickly, tell us what it feels to be able to share from the cultural industry's perspective as well.
Oh, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank the government of Barbados, and particularly His Excellency Ambassador Commission, and of course the Prime Minister, Mia Motley. Minister Simon, thank you very much for this occasion here, and Phil Phillips and all my colleagues, Oki, everybody here. I really appreciate you taking this opportunity to share with you my thoughts on what's going on currently. So when I spoke this morning, I made two proposals. The first one was to consider AU-CARICOM Day, at least for now, consider the 21st century the age of enlightenment for the two peoples, two areas, geographical areas. And the second proposal was to return to culture. I would like each of us, everyone listening here online or face-to-face, to take any of those proposals and run with them, run with it, or both, as you so wish. Education, of course, for me being at the University of the West Indies, I'm more about this educational idea. And access to education is a fundamental tool for development and increased prosperity in any community and society. This is particularly true in Africa, and particularly in the CARICOM context. And Oki has mentioned about education. According to UNESCO, there are 235 million students enrolled in universities, and in Africa, only about less than 10%. So that's a problem. Almost 2 decades ago, the World Bank reported in a report the African Capacity Building Initiative toward improved policy analysis and development management in Africa. The World Bank argued that one of the major challenges that African countries faced in the development was the lack of skilled professionals to manage their policies, institutions, and economies, which was a gap that tertiary education institutions tend to address. So this has been addressed here, at least at the University of the West Indies. For example, I'm very happy to announce that at the University of the West Indies, the Vice Chancellor, of course, with the initiative of the government, Prime Minister Mia Motley, the Vice Chancellor Sir Hilary Beckles, the former Pro-Vice Chancellor and Principal, the Most Honorable Professor Eugene Barito, and the current Pro-Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Clive Landis, have initiated a memorandum of understanding with at least 3 universities in Africa, 2 in Kenya, the University of Nairobi, Kenyatta University, and of course, Phil Phillips, you know very well, the University of Ghana, so that the UWI students, UWI will now be providing health education, medical education for students from Ghana to help build this capacity of health force for Africa. So these initiatives of health and education are very crucial. But also, finally, to mention the cultural industry, which I belong to here as a Dean of the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts, we look at the orange economy as a crucial component. or to link the two areas, the CARICOM and Africa. There's so much in common that can be developed. Music, dance, film, theater, and particularly the cultural studies return to cultural idea is very strong and fundamental to help revamp this this Ubuntu idea of existing together to make the people's lives better, and in fact for posterity as well. So yeah, so that's what I can say for now. Yes.
All right, and that's a whole lot. I really want to thank you for that. We're kind of rushing through it a little bit, but what it says to us is there's so much more to talk about. And, you know, this is just the start of things. We have one other party to bring in quickly as we get ready to wrap. And I'm sorry that you're coming in on the tail end. So we're going to ask you to be very brief. But I know, Mohammed, for you, you are Vice President of the Ghana Association of Barbados, and you represent some very important people who came to us at a time where we truly needed them, the nurses. Welcome. I believe your mic is muted. Oh boy, we lost him just there for a moment, but
yeah, he's
Alex.
Well, you know, it's time for us really to wrap. We have a lot more to do, a lot more to go, and we definitely will be having a part 2. This is the designated day, but it doesn't have to be the end of the discussion. So in closing, I'd like to thank all of you for being a part of it. Final words, 30 seconds, Ambassador.
Well, this is all about Africa-Caricom Day. And this is a day that we have to build up. This is a day that should be celebrated all across the African continent, all across the Caribbean community. And we should celebrate it in a way where we are building the people-to-people relationship between the two regions. And we are keeping a focus on the developmental agenda that our heads of government agreed upon. Kudos to Barbados for making the effort that we made today with the flag raising ceremony, with this program this evening, and the effort that Prime Minister Motley the effort she made to say to CARICOM, all of us must celebrate this day in a very big way, and we look forward to next year, bigger, better, even more meaningful celebrations.
Dr. Boama.
Yes. Yeah, briefly, my role is here just to listen, I guess, and basically. And from what I've heard, really, I'm quite intrigued about what the Afri-Exim Bank is trying to do. The idea of trying to finance in about 1.5 billion, perhaps, I believe, export trade.
Trade and investment.
And investment,
yes,
is something that we are all looking forward to, really. And I believe President Kufuor opened the door by his visit here, and our own Prime Minister, Honorable Motley, has opened it wider. Mm-hmm. And we hope that this will be the beginning of a whole lot of things that are to come. Mm-hmm. The pharmaceuticals, for instance, perhaps emphasis should be on the prostate health. I think I heard something on that, diabetes, high blood pressure, those that are predominantly mainly within the region here. As far as the nurses go, I don't think he said much. I know that they are working, they are happy. Yeah, yes. Of course, they meet some challenges. One of the main challenges being that they are not allowed to have their spouses to live here and work here, as the case may be. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's the beginning, so. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's the beginning. That's a great segue. Mm-hmm. Minister, final word, it's yours.
For many years we dreamed of these things. Now we're seeing it before our very eyes. Collaboration in all the fundamental areas of things that matter to Barbadians and matter to the people of the Caribbean. Collaboration in health, collaboration in our financing and our financial development, our business development, collaboration in tourism, collaboration in transport, collaboration in security. Africa has become, in a few short years, a major partner to this region and is filling a void in terms of helping us to build a developmental path and enabling us to stand on our own feet. And I am eternally grateful to all the support I'm getting from Ambassador, the team in the ministry, the team overseas. We've expanded our diplomatic footprint through Africa and are continuing to do so in the not too distant future. I don't want to speak out of turn, but we have yet another part of Africa in our sights where we would want to establish a presence as well, because it matters. And as I said, it is enabling us through collaboration to develop all of the aspects of our economy that we want to develop right here at home.
That definitely is a word to stay with us as we move forward. Collaboration and growth is what it's all about. And as the good doctor said, so just the beginning. So I want to thank you, gentlemen. I want to thank everyone who stayed online for the last few hours to be a part of this presentation. So sorry, Mohammed, that we weren't able to hear from you. We still weren't able to hear from Alex McDonald, but rest assured that we definitely are going to have a part 2 as we continue to share what's happening here in the Caribbean and indeed on the continent. Thank you for viewing. Good evening.